Is being faster actually better in Transport Fever 2? In a recent video on my channel, which you can find also in the video description below, we looked at how distance impacts the money that you make in Transport Fever 2. Today we're going to look at speed. If you don't know Transport Fever 2, this is an amazing resource management, city building simulation game. You can also find on my channel a review where I cover is it still worth buying in 2022. Spoiler alert, yes it is, that's why I'm showing it to you today. I'm StratGamer, covering strategy, city building games, simulations with game reviews, guides, tutorial and let's plays. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, don't hesitate to do so by pressing on the red button below. It is free and it helps a lot the channel. So once again, I went into the map editor to create a very specific map with very specific conditions so we can test things. And in particular, we're going to test how speeds impact the money we're making. So to do that, I placed a couple of farms. You can see here 3 grain farms, and then at the end a food processing plant that is going to take in all these grain. You can see that the distance is not exactly the same, but almost, it's really almost the same distance, because we saw in the previous episode that distance definitely matter in terms of how much money you are going to make. So what is going to be different? In the first line in red here, you see the first vehicle you get in the 1850s, which goes at 18 kilometers per hour, so the horse-drawn carriages. In the second line, we will test the truck that is unlocked in 1915, which can go up to 40 kilometers per hour. And lastly, in the third line, we'll test one of the latest truck that you get in the 1990, and it can go up to 100 kilometers per hour. And right away, I'm sure you can see that those 3 lines are not making the same money at all. First line is making less than 2 million, while the second line is making a bit more than 3 million, and the last one is almost making 7 million. Let's dive into some details on where this is coming from. If we look at the first line, each delivery gives us 54,000. The second line, 151,000, so 3 times the first one. And then the last one, almost 1 million for just one delivery. So you jump from the 50,000 of the first one. Of course, you're going to tell me that's because the capacity of each truck is different, and indeed it is. So let's divide the income of each by these numbers. Again, for the first one, we said it was 54,000, so divided by 4, that's 13,500. For the second, it was 151,000 divided by 7, that is 21,500. So definitely more already. And then the last one, we need to divide by 25. So it's almost 1 million divided by 25, that is almost 40,000. Definitely a big jump per item sold. So by now you should understand that the top speed of a vehicle is directly linked to the ticket price of the item sold. I will also put in the description below a link to the math behind it, but to make it simple, there is basically a linear correlation between your top speed of your vehicle and the income that you're going to make on that line, or the ticket price of each item sold. What it means is definitely make sure that each time you unlock new vehicles that have a higher speed, that you upgrade your old ones by these new ones. The other key element to consider is that if a vehicle is faster, it will also require less time for that vehicle to go from the starting point to the end point, and therefore to transport the same amount of goods. For example, for our grain farms, we all know we can transport 200 per year, and therefore to transport these 200 per year, you will need less vehicles the faster you are. Which is why for the first line, we actually have 247 vehicles, then only 66 for the second, which is only at 40 kilometers, and then only 9 at 100 kilometers. Some of you may be wondering what is the impact on maintenance. It's actually something quite interesting. Is the older vehicles, smaller vehicles that have low maintenance. This one is 4,000 per year, for example, while this one actually is 14,000, and this one almost 130,000. But once again, because you need so many of these, it's actually compensates for this difference in maintenance. If we go into the balance here, you can see that the maintenance per year on line number 1 is around 1 million. On line number 2, it is also around 1 million. And then on line 3, it is also 1 million. To recap, definitely better to go for the fastest truck as possible. It will give you more income, it will give you the same maintenance, so it will give you more profit. One other element we didn't mention is because you have less trucks on the road, you will of course also have less traffic and emission. So far we were only looking at trucks. Is it also true for other types of vehicles? Well, here it is. You have 3 trains, the first one going at 40 kilometers per hour, the second at 120 kilometers per hour, and the third at 160 kilometers per hour. And what do we see? We see the same. We go from almost 4 million to 6 million to almost 11 million, always delivering the same thing. So again, this is also true for all other vehicles like trains. And if you're wondering, this is also true for planes and for boats. So in this episode, I really focus on showing you how your ticket price, the money that you make from selling things in Transport Fever 2 is linked to your top speed. In the previous episode, we looked also how it was linked to the distance. Don't hesitate to check that out on my channel. In the next episode, we'll look at which type of vehicle is better. Meaning if you want to transport 200 of grains, should you use trains, trucks, or planes? Don't hesitate to follow on the channel the current Let's Play that we're doing in Transport Fever 2 on a large map connecting all of the cities and sharing a lot of tips along the way. If you like this episode, don't hesitate to press the like button, and I hope to see you next time on my channel.